welcome to another instalment of Just Ask Jess. It is Monday night, so it's time for us to have a chat about some of the things that people are interested in knowing more about in terms of the world of work. So this evening I'm going to be talking about how to manage a virtual team and sharing 2 or 3 tips around what to do if you have a team that's dispersed or people that work in different parts of the country or possibly even different parts of the world, and how to really galvanise and create a team when you're not all sitting together in the same place. So if you have questions for me this evening, let me know. You can type them in and I will do my best to answer them. If there's anything that I don't get to this evening, then I will do my best to follow up with you afterwards and let you know anything that I might have missed. I'm just going to refresh now, make sure I can see everything, so that if anyone connects, then I can make sure I answer your questions. There we go, wonderful. So so virtual teams. What do we mean by virtual team? So virtual team is one whereby you're all not sat together in the same office environment. So by the nature of that, you're all sitting either working at home potentially, so remote working. Maybe you work in different offices in different parts of the country, or maybe you work in different offices in different parts of the world. Either way, you don't get the benefits that teams that sit together get to have. So there are some different tweaks and nuances to think about when you're dealing with the team that way. And I've been in that situation, and I've also worked with lots of teams in that regard. And it takes a little bit more thought as a leader for you to really galvanise a team that way. So what are my kind of top 3 or 4 things that I'd suggest? So first of all, you need to get to know your team members really well. Now this is true regardless of whether you have a team all sitting in the same office or not. But one of the challenges with working with people who are working remotely or away from you is that quite often when you connect with them, you're not connecting with them face to face. So you're going to miss out on a large portion of what they're communicating to you. So if you think about that, you're in the office in a run of a day, you will spot whether someone's having a good day, bad day, a lot of their body language. You'll get to pick up on things that you don't necessarily get to see when someone's not sat right next to you in the office. So being really clear on who your team is, what makes them tick, how they function, what's normal for them in terms of how they work, whether they like to process information, whether they're more reflective. That's important for any team, but really important if you're working with someone virtually. So you've got a better chance of constructing the team in the way that works for everybody, but also picking up on some of those cues if somebody's not having the best day. So, you know, do something like a DISC profile or a Myers-Briggs or something of that nature. That can also really help you figure out who's going to have more challenges with the distance than others, who's going to need to talk to you more often, and so on, and shape your ways of working around what the team needs. So that's the first thing I'd say. Get to know what good looks like for all of your team members, so you're really tuned in when they're not as, you know, having the best day that they might be having. The second thing I'd say is contracting. So contracting is really agreeing ground rules as a team about how you work together, and effective teams do that no matter whether they all sit together or not. But if you don't all sit together in the same place, having some rules about how and when you connect becomes increasingly important to make sure that you have everybody joined together in the right way. So have some conversation about things like, when do we use email and what do we use it for? Okay, so it's really easy to just fire off an email for somebody. Is that the right thing, and in what situations and what context for your team? How are you going to manage group conversations over the phone? There's nothing more painful than that virtual phone conference call where no one's quite sure if it's their turn to speak and everybody's interrupting each other and there's all that time delay. Take all of that off the table. Have agreement about how you manage communication in the team, when you connect about what, all those types of rules. And as much as you can, try and make sure you use visual technology to connect with the team. So when you think about communication, a large portion of what you get from people is body language. If you're only connecting over the phone on conference calls, you're missing out on a lot of that information. So the more that you can use things like FaceTime or Skype or Google Hangouts or any of that, you know, technology, there's lots of things around today that exist to help you do that. Use that. Even if it's just for a quick 10-minute check-in call, having that person's face in front of you really makes a big difference. So do some contracting with the team about how you connect and what you connect on. Find ways, the third thing, find ways to connect beyond the tasks that you have going on. So, you know, when you're all sat together in the office, it's really easy for you to just drop in and drop out of conversations and see how people are doing and go for a drink after work and all that type of stuff, which you just can't do if, you know, if you're all in separate places. So those kind of off-the-cuff conversations are a big part of what increases the level of trust and social interaction in a team. So you've got to find ways to do that with people. You know, it could be as simple as just randomly calling up. I used to phone the people that were in different time zones from me on my way home in the car, and just to chat about life and find out what was going on with them, and ensure and reinforce the connection that they had with me as their leader. So just find ways to check in without a purpose to the conversation. That's really important for maintaining the relationship. And the last thing I'd probably say is be conscious about disclosing more to people. We have, you know, if you're sitting together in the office together, people will learn through osmosis. They will see things happening around you. They will hear conversations you have. They will get to oversee you in meetings. They will kind of have a better sense of what's generally going on in the organisation. And if people aren't sat with you, they don't get to see as much of that. And so the context that they need for the job that they do is often patchier. So get used to having conversations with people where you tell them more stuff about what's just going on in the organisation. Who dropped in to visit this week? What projects are happening? Where have you spent the majority of your time this week? What's been important to you? Those things help shape and create the context for the work that they do. And without you sharing that deliberately, it's likely they're going to miss out a big portion of that, which is important to their level of engagement and performance at work. So, you know, get comfortable when you're having a conversation with somebody, you've got something planned in for your team. Take a couple of minutes at the beginning and just talk about what's been going on for you, so that it has some of that wider context. So I think those are probably the big 4 things that I'd suggest. Make sure you know your team really, really well. And that can be in doing something like a DISC profile, so that you really understand how they function and you can spot when they're, you know, not at their best. Contract with your team about how you connect with each other, when you connect with each other, what technology do you use, when do you use it, and make sure you keep those commitments. There's nothing worse than having a conference call scheduled in for your boss and you can't walk down the corridor and tap them on the shoulder and they don't show up. So you've got to keep your meetings when you schedule them in with your team. Find ways to connect randomly beyond task. You don't need to have a purpose to connect with your team, and that's an important part of building the relationship. And be conscious about disclosing more about what's generally going on in the organisation, so that they have that wider sense to support their performance. So those would be my big 4 kind of tips. If you have any questions for me about managing virtual teams, or how you deal with people who are working remotely, or maybe you're facing some of those specific challenges, we can absolutely help with that. We do a lot of work with teams and making teams effective no matter where you happen to live. So get in touch with us. You can email me at contact@e3.ca or give me a phone call. Or if you have any questions too for another Just Ask Jess segment, please let me know. I'm always happy to talk about anything that's going to improve workforce performance. So thanks for listening this evening, and good luck with your teams. Make sure that you're focusing and getting everybody galvanised behind the same purpose, and hopefully the rest of the year will see great results for you. All right, take care.